Good Foreign Friday, Thomas. How are you today?
I'm doing all right.
It's good to hear.
Hopefully
I'm having one of those days
here, and certainly an interesting race card of the races we're working on.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a fun day down there at Caulfield for sure. A fun night into the morning. A little bit of insomnia racing. We'll get to the times that the races kick off, but I don't know if you've ever had those days, but I'm having one of those days from the moment I got out of bed. It's like 2 left feet, 2 right hands, where just nothing is going right. It's just been in it one of those days, just like from the get-go. So hopefully we can correct that right here, right now with some picks. If you haven't had a chance to, last night, Thomas, myself, and Terry and Sean together on our Horse Racing Radar YouTube channel, we talked with the track announcer, Robert Geller, from Woodfield. Woodfield's the mall not too far outside of Chicago, so that's a little bit different, but kind of the same. But you're going to get a little bit of an international flair of some of the racing at Woodbine tomorrow, with 3 win-in, you're in Breeders' Cup Stakes races, 2 of which are on a turf course, of which Robert said does remind him a lot of some of the European-type horses do really well there. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, please do so. While you're here on YouTube or Facebook, or well, YouTube specifically, we're about 8 people away from 2,000. So do what you can do to be number 2,000. We'd appreciate it. And thank you for all your support. And hopefully we'll reward you for it today with some nice picks at Caulfield in the land down under. Can you hear the thunder, Thomas?
I can.
All right.
And looking forward to watching these races tonight.
Yes, we'll talk about the times in just a moment. Just get a sense of what the track looks like. It's a little bit more American looking than some of the stuff we've been dealing with over in England, in Europe. But this one kind of looks a little bit like a what do you think it looks like? It looks like a dad bod to me almost.
Yeah, or how about a weird kidney bean? I don't know.
Could be that. I'm going to give it the dad bod look for sure.
Okay, but it's a nice track though, and they've really run some quality race. This is one of the metropolitan tracks, so they run. And even Bob Geller talked about this is one of his favorite tracks when he was growing up.
Yeah, I said he spent a lot of time there, so it's kind of interesting that we talked to him and then he bring it up without even us mentioning it. So I thought that was interesting. So race number 4. First, we should mention that the going is expected to be soft number 5. So Tom, soft 5. What does that mean to you?
Means that there's going to be a lot of water on this course or under the course. And there'll be a lot of give, and you'll see a lot of kickback. So horses that like that soft to heavy going should appreciate this a lot.
Mm-hmm. And I definitely focused a lot on horses that like soft to heavy for my selections today. So this one's 1,600 meters for the Caulfield Guinea.
This is 1,400.
1,400. 1,400 meters.
Both the prelude races are 1,400. They're 7 furlong.
So 1,400. If we look on our sheet right here, 1,400 is going to start in the chute. Imagine they're going to come down and around like this, and then come finish like this. They run the right way down there, unlike some of the tracks over in England. So hopefully that helps us make some better picks, as we won't be out of line. So get us cracking on race number 4, which, by the way, I forgot to mention, is going to kick off at around 12:15 a.m. Eastern. So a little bit of insomnia racing for the East Coast, a little bit of late night racing for the folks over on the West Coast. All right, Thomas.
And did you pull up the speed map because where they think the position will be? I sent it along to you.
Yes, actually, they do have speed maps on here too. So let me pull up the speed map on here. Speed map. There you go. How you like that?
Gives you some idea of where they think the pace will be after the break.
Mm-hmm.
With that, I took number 2, Aft Cabin, as my top choice. Second at Caulfield in the Group 3 last out, without the benefit of a clean run. Had traffic issues and still managed to do pretty good because it traveled 5th and then 6th, and then it picked it up near the wire, but didn't finish it.
Mm-hmm.
Raced 3 times this season and never out of the money. Off his last effort, really got to put him on top. With that, I took number 5, Lethal Thoughts, as my next choice. Ran 5th at Rose Hill, last out in a Group 3, going 1,300 meters. Ran towards the rear and then made up a ton of ground. But he was wide, and he just, he was passing the slow ones, but not really getting to the winners. But that was his first race in over 2 months, so you got to give him a little bit. With that, he ran 2 barrier trials prior to that race and won one of them, and he was 7th in the other. He's placed in Group 3s. He ran an OK 6th at Eagle Farms. I mean, he likes the soft going. He has 2 wins on it, a win on it from 2 starts. So that's why I think the second position is a good place for him.
Good price too, 15-1 right now. It looks like.
Yeah. Well, now I'm going to really jump up.
All right, Tom being Tom, I like it.
I'm going to take number 8, Japanese Emperor, as my final selection. Horse 1 for 1. Won at 1,200 meters last time at 40-1. It moves from that, and really moved nicely in that maiden race. And it came from the rear and moved up strongly. And one of the expressions that I love that they put on here was they shouldered the way up at 250 left and produced a monster run. Well, that sounds impressive on anybody's scale. And the going was heavy. So I don't think this surface at all will bother it, and definitely going to take it. I think it'll be a price, and it's one of those horses that could be quickly developing into something special.
Well, they have it listed at 550 right now, so it looks like everybody's on to you, Thomas.
Yeah, well,
I'm going to start with number 1, Ospenko, maybe. I think that's how they pronounce this horse's name. Horse has run twice, got a win and a second, and one of those efforts was over a soft course. Horse came off the first career start's not really coming off the bench, but it's the longest time it's the longest layoff you're going to take in most cases, and won. Next time out, ran second. So one of that second was at the distance. I think the lone win was on a soft track. So I'm pretty sure that guy's going to come off the bench ready to go. My next pick was your first pick, number 2, Aft Cabin. Horse does have a win at the distance, been on the soft track twice, managed to collect the check in both of them. So he's alternated between seconds and first. Started second, went first, second last time out. So if that trend continues, Tom, guess what? Going to win again. My third choice. Now, I'm really going to go out on the limb, Tom. I'm going to be more Tom than Tom here. I'm going to go with number, it was this 11? There's a lot of horses in this field. Black Samurai, 81-1, Thomas. What do you think about that?
If that hits, you're going to cash a nice check.
Well, the horse has run once. It finished second. The race that it did run was on a soft surface. And when I was reading the notes about this horse, it said he hit the line hard at debut. Winner had a 5th in the Group 2 the following race. So obviously the winner in that race was not a bad horse. And yet this one is going to go off at 70. It was morning line 71-1. So there's money running away from that one. And then finally, number 4, Meritus is my final choice. Number 4, the 4th. This is a horse that's also run on a soft track 2 times, has a second and a third, ran in the money all 3 races. And if you look back at race number 2 compared to the debut, you'll see that race number 2 was an improvement off of race number 1. So I'm hoping to find that same cycle. And honestly, I was thinking about putting that 9 horse in there too. The 8 horse, Japanese Emperor. But when it won that first race at 40-1, I want to see another good one, because certainly the bettors didn't think much of the horse in the debut. So let's see if the bettors were wrong or the horse is wrong. We'll find out in this one for sure.
Well, we are moving from a provincial track to a metropolitan track, so there is a bit of a class jump. But as I said, that description of monster finish really stuck out.
Oh yeah,
because we with 3-year-olds, when you hear that, when you see that, you gotta scratch your head and go, okay, is this one of those rapidly improving types who didn't race as a 2 but needed to mature, but now is popped right out there.
Or just something, one of those
more a freak.
Or one of those horses that doesn't practice well, but when you get it on the track, the competitive juices go, and it's more than it shows when it's when it's prepping. Race 5. This one is the 1,000 guineas Prelude, 1,400 meters. Tom, again, same as last time out, so it's going to start here. They come back around, and they're going to run the right way to the finish circle there. This race, again, on a soft 5 surface, is slated to start at approximately 12:55 a.m. Eastern time. That's tonight. So from Friday night into Saturday morning, U.S. time. If you're out on the West Coast, it looks like it's going to start at approximately 9:55 p.m. Eastern. Pacific time. So keep that in mind when these races are kicking off. If you have insomnia like Tom, might get these emails from Tom all times in the middle of the morning. And I'm like, does this guy ever sleep? Race number 5. Let's look at the speed map before we get started. So it looks like there's going to be plenty of early pace in this one, Tom, according to the speed map.
I could only find 2 that were, and the speed map sort of dictates more like 4 that are going to be sitting either middle or back. And the rest of them are going to be more towards the front.
Going to be giddy up and going. So are you going to focus on horses that's on the front, or are you going to look for something that comes from off what could be a hot pace?
I'm going to try with a closer in this one. I think it's interesting to point out that these are both the trial, or not trials, but prelude races for the Guineas. And the filly version of this is a Group 2 race, and the male version is a Group 3 race. So I find that very interesting. With that, we're going to take number 2. Revolutionary Miss is my top choice. Last run closed good, just missed a placing, running 5th. It was a blanket finish, to say the least. And she wasn't the only one. There's a couple others in this that ran in that race that were also in that blanket finish.
Mm-hmm.
First start of the season, I would refer to as a disaster. Ran last in a Group 2 race. She needed to improve, and she did. So the last race was a listed. She's going to move up in company to Group 2 again. But that doesn't bother me because I think she needed that first start. She's only won once in 7 starts, but she's got 3 placings. And I really think that effort last time out says that she's on the right track. Number 7, Mubai Jewel is going to be my next choice. First 2 starts have not been great. 7th and last out, and a 9th in a Group 2 to start this season. But as my top choice, with 1 win, this is one. It was on the soft going. She's placed in Group 3s. What's interesting to me is that her group barrier trials were good, but she didn't show it on the track. So with that, she was in that same race as Revolutionary Miss was. And also, that blanket finish. And I think you're going to see a couple of them come out of that race and pop here.
All right.
With that, one more.
Number
Number 13, Bohir is my final choice. It's a 2-year-old. It ran 3rd in 1 race and then nothing in the other 2 races it ran. Well, that's one I would like to refer to as a need to mature. So they put her in some barrier races, and she did a little better. But the time when she finished 7th, the time was really quick. It was 47 and change. Then she broke through. She won her maiden, no problem. Made a move up to 2nd on the turn, and then just went powered by them. And one of the comment I read was she got lazy at the end. Well, she didn't have any company. She was a short price in that race, so to me, somebody knew something. Mm-hmm. And moving up, it's going to be interesting to see how that horse fits in this race, because they was running in Group 2s as a 2-year-old and really showed nothing. But now all of a sudden, this may one be popping on the scene as something interesting.
Getting on fire. So, I don't think you and I agree on one horse in this race.
I'm not surprised. It's a mess.
We don't do it on purpose so that we get more chances to win. I don't look at Tom's picks. He doesn't look at mine.
No.
Just probably look at things a little bit differently. I'm going to start with number 5, Boogie Dancer. Boogie Dancer is been on the wet track 5 times. He's got 3 wins on the soft track, 2 wins in 3 races for the Boogie Dancer. The horse is definitely trending up in the right direction, has run at the track, so it's got to run over to Caulfield course, and it managed to win that race on the Caulfield course. And the conditions that day at 7 furlongs were just like today. soft. So horses had a chance to run at Caulfield 7 furlongs on a soft track and found the winner's circle. So I'm looking for that to happen again today or tomorrow morning. Lickety Split. She's a Lickety Split is my next choice. 5-1. So a couple of 5-1s to get cracking on here. Lickety Split has been on a soft course 2 times. You know how many times it won that race, Thomas?
Twice.
2 for 2. It's been on the second up. Lifetime, the horse has run 4 times, so it's won 3 of them. And it won the last. The one it didn't win was the third off the layoff. So one off the layoff, it won. Second up, it won. So far, the horse is 1 for 1 on its second run after layoff. So a lot of good numbers, I think, across the board with this New Zealander. Next up for me is number 9. So let's move back down the list here. Do I have any bombs in this one today? 14-1. I'll take 14-1. Tom, I know you would take that.
That's not a bomb, but that's a good price.
Yeah. Well, I mean, relative to the other horses in here, it looks like everybody's about the same. If you look at the odds, 5, 10, 7.5, 6, 7, 11.
I mean, I looked through that and I'm going, the favorite's going to go off at 4-1.
Yeah. So you only have a few horses in here that kind of get over that 20-1. So this is, to me, when you look at those odds, the odds makers telling you straight up, this is a very competitive race. Hope at Hand is my third choice. The 9 horse here is making its second start off of a layoff. Second up, it's only made it that one time. It improved off that race. And in the race, the race before that, or the debut race, the horse finished second, came off the second run off the layoff and finished first. Well, this time around, first time off a layoff, finished second. Today it's going to finish first again. That's run no worse than third in its 5 races. It's gotten a soft surface. It's gotten a shot at the distance, so the horse can handle it unquestionably. And then finally, the number 10 is my last choice. That is, oh boy, Proscenium Arch. All right, another New Zealander. I think I got that pronounced correctly. If I didn't, all apologies to the connections. Another horse that's run on a off track one time, did finish a third, but if it gets worse and it gets heavy, he's run on a heavy track twice with a win and a third. And just looking at the horse here, it looks to me like it's trending in the right direction. Last time out, you see, he was narrowly beaten as a favorite. Gets blinkers for the first time. Commands respect, according to the folks over there in Australia, who make these sorts of proclamations. Well, you know, for football fans, New England might as well be down in Australia, right?
Yeah, well, they're certainly popular, but we got a little insight on Australian rules football last night, so it was kind of gave us a different perspective for NFL versus their version of football.
Yeah, he basically said that the Australian football types are a lot tougher.
Yeah.
That they would be shocked to see the American football players who never use their feet wearing all of that artillery to padding in the game. So if you're between here and there, though, between here and tonight, if you're going to bet a little baseball, please head on over to Picks with the Professor. College football as well tomorrow, Saturday. It'll be a huge day of college football, as always. I'm sure there's some college football games tonight as well. There is a link for the Professor right here in the description on YouTube and Facebook. And you can also find it on Twitter. Make sure you do subscribe if you have not. You'll see the handles down below. Horse Race, the number 2, Dave, for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you're right here on YouTube, Horse Racing Radar TV, kindly hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Hit the bell. Give us thumbs up if you like what you see. And then, of course, tell your friends about us, Thomas.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're going to go off to race number 6 now at Caulfield. Race 6 is 2,000 meters, so much longer than the ones we ran before. So 2,000, they're going to basically start at the finish line, a little bit advanced from there. Make almost a full loop around the track, Tom. So from your experience watching Caulfield, when you got to make that full loop, is there any particular spot on the track strategically that's a little bit better to be in?
From what I've watched, it seems to be the ones that tuck in with some little drafting going on seem to get a better run when they straighten away for home. But keeping in mind that you're on a turn for about quarter to a half the race, and then you hit a straight, then you take another turn, and then you got a stampede to the finish. So it's really, again, this is a stamina race. So tucking in and saving some for that end is really the key here. And there are some good ones that can do that. And with that, I took number 14.
One quick thing before you go on to number 14, Thomas.
Oh, the speed map, yeah.
Well, the speed map, we can do that too, but we'll pull up the speed map. I also want to mention that this race goes off at about 1:35 a.m. Eastern, which would be a 12:35 my time, probably about the last one I'm going to be up for. Looks like the to Earlswood has a distinct early speed advantage. Everybody else, as I like to say, is going to clump up in the middle. All right. What do you think? Is Earlswood going to take advantage of that for the win?
I don't think so on this going, unless it really gets a dawdling pace. With that, I took number 14, Uncle Byron, as my top choice. Or Byron. Last time it was ran a nice second at Moonee Valley. It stalked, moved up on the turn, and finished strongly, but didn't finish completely winning. But the seconds was good. And with that first start of the season, it ran at Caulfield and ran sixth. It sat back in the back of the field, which is not a huge surprise in that kind of race, and then made a move. But one of the comments was it didn't have a chance to win, but it came on. So again, I think it's building to better races, and now we're going to stretch it out a little bit. Those first two races were at 1,400 meters and 1,600. So add another 400 on here and see what happens. This one, it came in from England, and they're really just getting the horse on track because the earlier races were not particularly good, and these races seem to be seeing some improvement, and that's why I'm going to take it. Number 13, Smokin' Romans is going to be my next choice. His one start this season and finished second in a small field, going 2,400 meters, 40 meters at Moonee Valley. It just missed the win. It was right there. And really off that effort, it should be ready for another really good effort because it's in the past, it's come off second up. It's done well. This is one that prefers the good to soft going. So I got to lean to that soft and hope that this horse is right in there. My concern with this horse is that, frankly, I think it may want more distance than this race. Finally, I'm going to take number 6, Chapada. Last start was the first run since October of 2021. And it was a first start. Ran 8th, sat in the back of the field, moved up a bit, and then, it finished okay. But the comment was interesting. It didn't lie down, although it was never in a winning hope. So they saw something. He's run this distance at Caulfield. He hasn't won, but in those 3 starts, he has 2 placings. In his career, he's placed in Group 1s and he's won Group 2s. He's placed in Group 3s. But he only has 3 wins in his 35 race career. So that's why I'm going to put him for a placing and then drop him in for 3rd.
This is a Tom special. Gonna win? Nah. In the money? Yeah. All right. We're gonna start I think we have to start trademarking some of these things. So again, 2 races in a row. You know how many horses we agree on?
None.
I all right, Barack, cut it out. I can't speak right now. I'm going to take advantage of that early pace thing. I'm going to go with Earlswood as my top pick. Number 2, the horse has run at the distance 2 times. You know how many times he's won?
2.
2 for 2. Horse has run on a soft track. This is the little iffy part for me. 5 times out with a win and a 3rd. So not so good, or a placing, as I guess they say down under. But if the track gets a little heavier, he's been on a heavy track 3 times, 2 wins and a 3rd. So I think just maybe had some off races on those days. Maybe. We'll see. My next selection is number 2. A good friend of mine used to have this name, Shiraz, one of the smartest guys I've ever met, unquestionably. So hopefully one of the better horses. Just missed it the last time out at long odds at Caulfield, as it says, went fresh, but a wide barrier is a concern, faces a rising trip. But if you look at the guy on the soft track, 3 wins, 2 seconds, gotta like that. Has been at the distance a couple of times, didn't really fare that well. One time didn't fare that well. But I do expect that this is a horse in the second off of a layoff. it is going to do better than it did in the first race. My next number one is my third choice. That is Gold Trip. Well, this looks like it might be one of the favorites over here. Horse has been on the soft track 8 times, been in the money 5 of those 8. The horse is running Group 1, which is a pretty high class level there, with a win, a couple of seconds, a couple of thirds, a couple of placings. And if I look at the one horse here, this one is also making its second start off a layoff. And when a second up, a win and a second. I do like the fact that the horse did, it says here, lovely return at Rose Hill, class act, and kept him fresh, suitable for this assignment. I don't know what any jar out means, but it must mean something in Australia. Maybe somebody can fill us in on what that jargon means. Do you have any idea what that means, Tom?
I've never seen that before, so I can't help you.
Yeah, it's got to be some like local colloquialism. All right, then finally, number 9, Midnight Blue. Isn't that, who sings that? Don Henley? Midnight Blue?
Yeah, I think so.
It's Don Henley. On the soft track 1 time with a second, been at the distance twice with a win and a second. This horse is making its, come on, mouse, cooperate. The 9 horse Midnight Blue is making its third start off a layoff and a third up with a win and a second. And I do like the fact that it's following the same trend that it did last time. First off the layoff, second off the layoff improved. Third time off the layoff last time was a win. So let's see if it can repeat that pattern. As you know, Tom, I'm big on cycles. And actually, Robert Geller talked a little bit about that last night too, being big on cycles. So I do like to see how horses run off the bench, second off the bench, all that sort of stuff. Number of days off, like if there's a window that they usually perform well in. So I try to.
Well, and one thing with the Australian form, we get that information. They break it down for us rather than us trying to figure it out through the form lines as in the States. So I think that is helpful if you are a form handicapper or want to see a horse. Does it need a start before it wins, or does it need 2 starts before it wins? And also, and then I also like to compare that with what type of company it's been keeping, because frankly, there is something to be said for key races. You catch them every once in a while that you see, a bunch of horses come out of a really good race and they go on and continue to either win or place, and that helps the bankroll go up.
Especially when you hit winners, for sure. The race number 7 on the Caulfield card. This one is back to 7 furlongs, Tom, 1,400 meters. So we'll take a look at what the 1,400 meter thing looks like. Here we go. Come around and down and 1. So kind of a straightish out of the gate, a little bit of a turn left and then another turn left, and home they go. This race, again, let's just go forward here, is going to start at approximately 2:15 a.m. Eastern. I will absolutely 100% be in bed, but man, maybe not. This will probably be the latest I'll be up for this race, Tom. Is this the last one? And to me, we haven't agreed on a horse in the last 2 races. And I have to say, when I was handicapping this one, I think there's about 20 horses in this field. I think 18 is how many are gonna go out.
Yeah.
I have to say that this one was probably the most difficult, not difficult, but of the 18 horses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I had 8 of them slotted as horses I felt can be in a position or make a case to win. So I'm curious in the race that I think is the most difficult to see how many you and I match on. Let's take a quick look at the speed map. And then, it looks like a pretty symmetrical race to me. You got a few that want to get to the front, a couple that want to be in the blob, and a few that are going to kind of sit back patiently and see what happens.
Yep. And with that, I took number 18. I Wish I Win as my top choice. It hadn't raced since March of 2021. And it came out really strong because it won that first start at 1,400 meters. It sat in the back of the field. It was 7th, then dropped to 8th, and then moved up, then charged home and won by open lengths. And that's a nice way to come off a layoff. This horse is really interesting in terms of the second up and first up. First up, it had 4 layoffs. It won 3 times. And second up, it's also done fairly well because it has 3 starts and 3 placings. So why do I pick it for the top? Well, I just off that last effort.
Mhm.
Coming off the bench that long and being able to blow away a field is really impressive to me.
But I think he's got an E next to him, so he may or may not get in.
He may or may not get in. Yeah. So we'll keep that in mind. But one other comment, he's lightly raced, only has 10 starts. And of those, he's won 3 of them, and he's got 6 placings. So he is ultra consistent, and they obviously run him when he's fit. Number 16, Shuttle-Lot, is going to be my next choice. This is a first start of the season for this horse after running 6th in a barrier trial. He's only a Group 3 winner, so why am I picking? Because the going, he likes the going. He likes that soft going, and he's won on it. He has a good record of first starts off a layoff. Actually, it's an excellent record. 5 starts and 4 wins. That's pretty good. Okay, this is a Group 1, but that's still impressive.
Especially when you consider he's only got 5 wins and 13 races in his career.
So, again, another one lightly raced horse. Will I get odds? Maybe.
17 to 1, it says right now. So
yeah,
those are odds.
I think it's going to drift down a little bit. 9, Halal is going to be my next choice. Improved off the last start, ran 4th in a Group 1 at Ranwick. This is a front runner. He breaks strong from the gate. And last race he ran on the front for most of it, and then caught at the end. But that was his seasonal debut. Was not as good. He sat 9th, and then he didn't do much after that. So he obviously, being a front runner, he really he needed a race before he could actually strut his stuff. But there's a big improvement between those 2 races, and I go with lack of fitness as being the issue. And I think with that last race, I think he got a lot more fit. Finally, you're going to talk about number 17. I'm going to put that one in there if my other one does not draw in.
Number 17 being, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to talk. I think it's number 15. I'm going to talk about.
Okay, well, 17 will be the one I will put in there.
Dragon Leap?
Yeah, as my saver.
All right, that's the one that he's going to fit in there just in case. But we talked about Tavaldi is the horse. That's the horse that you mentioned. So is the one I'm going to eventually talk about. But I'm going to get started off with number 10. That is Showmanship. It's a 7-1 morning line there. Number 10 is going to make its second start off a layoff. But what I like about this horse, Tom, he's run at the distance 4 times. He's actually run 10 times overall. It managed to win 8 of 10. But you look right here, the horse has run at the distance 4 times. You know how many times he's won?
4.
Hey, what is this? Comprehensive guy. Look, a little free advertising. So I think we should get a sponsorship. It's been at the track, actually has a W at that track, and it's going to make his second start off a layoff. So second up, that might be one of the weak spots for the horse, 2 times with a win. But last time, first time out, it came out with a win, followed it up with another win. It's at the distance, 2 out of 3 on soft. Till he loses at the distance, I'm going to put him on the top because he's told me that he is a 7 furlonger. Likes to run that peculiar distance. Next for me is number 8, which is Ireton, another New Zealander. 8-1 morning line on this horse. Coming off, and he's making his first start off a layoff. And if you look at the horse on the first up, Tom, he's run 4 times. How many has he won?
4.
4 for 4. Hey, cut it out. No more free advertising. But 4 for 4 first up. So, again, that's another situation where until that trend breaks, the trend is your friend. Horses also run at the distance 6 times, won 3 of them with a second and a third. Hasn't run on a soft track yet. So that's the big question. Can he run the distance and make it 5 for 5 in his first go on a soft track? All of his work has been done so far on a good track. Did catch a wet track, a heavy track once, did not perform. So I think this one at 8-1, because of the lack of experience on a soft track, is a candidate for to go up. I agree with you.
You get a better price on that one.
Yeah, I think so. I think the odds are going to probably go up. I agree with you. I wish I win. If the horse gets in, it's probably going to be a heavy favorite for sure. The one kink, if there is a kink in the armor there, that is in second up. It's done 3 times, and hasn't managed to win any of them yet. Finished second in both of them. So maybe the horse comes out of the barn on fire. A little bit of regression if it's not there. Number 15 is my next choice. That is Tuvalu. Tuvalu is making it. So let me just page down here. It is making its first start off of a layoff. So first up, the horse has been out 4 times, has 3 wins and a second. Gotta like that. Been on a soft track 4 times, brought home the win in 2 of them, had a second place finish in the other 2. Been at the distance 4 times, 3 wins and a second. So this is a horse that absolutely loves the conditions, loves coming off the bench and running fresh, and has a penchant for performing at the distance. Been in the money, 11 for 11 lifetime with 7 wins and 4 seconds. Kind of hard to throw that guy off your ticket. But again, I had 8 horses I thought I could put on my ticket, and unfortunately, we don't get to do that.
No, but yeah, I would agree with you. I think that's one of my ones to look at, just based on that record and how it comes off the bench and really runs strong races.
And if the 18 doesn't get in, Tom, 16 Shallot is my alternative pick, which is interesting to me, Tom, because we semi-agreed on 2 horses in what I think is the most competitive race. And then on the races that maybe weren't as competitive, but apparently they are based upon our picks, we didn't agree on any. So the last 24 horses between you and me, we've agreed on 2 of them. That's the type of racing I think you're going to see tonight.
Yeah, these fields are very competitive, as we are pointing out, but I think they're also ones where you're seeing more than, you can't cut it down to less than 8, or at least I couldn't. I think I was as many as 12 in one race, and most of them averaged around 10, where I had to scratch the head and go, okay, which one's the best of the bunch? And then I took some speed numbers and some other numbers and try to put it together and figure out who I want on top.
I have a much simpler way. Magic 8 ball. Do I use this guy or not? Yeah. Yes, you should. All right. That one goes in. Absolutely not. You might choose better. Please shake again. I don't even know what the 8 ball says, but anyway, if you're up at 2:50 a.m. Eastern, the next race will be kicking off. That is the How Now Stakes. This one's 1,200 meters, so they're going to cut it back because they have 6 furlongs, I guess, right? They're going to start all the way up on the chute here, run all the way down. So I don't really think that when you have that long of a front stretch where you get to run without making a turn. I don't know how much position really matters at that point, because you're going to be able to pretty much get any position that you want. Looking at the speed map, it looks to me like the horses Rainbell and Lavish Girl will be up at the front, and everybody else blobbing in behind them. There's not really a horse in here that's what you call a classic closer. So it looks like you got some speed, you got some pressure horses, and in a 6 furlong race straight, mostly, that's probably the way to go. Which way are you going to go?
I'm going to take the undefeated horse, and should be the big favorite. Number 4, Chain of Lightning. Kind of hard to pass on a 5-5 record. She's a 4-year-old, so they have obviously not rushed this one. And late maturing. Her last win was on a Group 3 race. She really ran well. I mean, she sat 8th, and then it finally got her settled, and they moved her up, and she went right by them. And the more interesting thing was she went off at 5-1 in that last race. That's a nice price for an undefeated horse. Yes, it was stepping up into group company, but it had run really well. You won't get 5-1 this time around. There's no way.
It was 3-1 morning line. Looks like it's down to 5-2, and 3 for 3. Of those 5 races, 3 of them were on a soft course. So there's even you can't even use that against the horse, right? Even 2 for 2 at the distance, 2 for 2 at the track. I mean, if you're trying to find an excuse not to play it, it's hard to find one. I
couldn't. Number 2, Zap Patol is my next choice. A lackluster race in its Group 3 at Ranwick last out. It was forwardly placed and just didn't fire. best way to describe it. Ran sixth.
Mm-hmm.
So I tossed it. I tossed that race because the start before, she really looked brilliant and she blew them away.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she had an off day. She was sixth early in the stages of the race, moved to fourth on the turn, and really ran well. You know, first up win, nice. She ran off some good barrier runs, and I just think she went backwards in the last race. I think she'll go forward in this one.
I think too, if you look at the horse's record, first up 3-2-1, right? So it's 3 times 2 wins in a second. Second up 3 times out, no wins, a second and a third, and then third time up like today, 2 times out with a win and a second. So maybe one of those yo-yo horses that that second race a little bit tired and then rebounds in the third one.
Yeah, and I thought it had, you know, in this group 3, I thought it fit nicely. Finally, I'm taking number 7, Isotope, as my final choice. First start of the season, it ran 6th. It was running 6th, then it got shuffled back to 9th, and it moved up a little bit, but it had too much to do because there were some questions. The stewards requested a vet check, and they found her to have the thumps. You know what that is?
The thumps. Is that like the mumps in your thighs?
No. It's a diaphragmatic flutter, and it's caused by dehydration. And the human equivalent is hiccups. So I know. Yeah, I thought that was interesting because, I mean, with that, you know, there's a change. They're going to take the blinkers off. They're going to take another piece of equipment off. And without those issues, I think this horse will be right there. She's run really well before. And this group, in the group 3 level, she seems to be very competitive. So hopefully those issues are resolved.
Yes, hopefully it doesn't have the thumps and somebody scares the hell out of the horse before it goes.
Yep.
Well, you know, funny. So we didn't agree on anything, and now we agree on everything. So just a little bit different order. I agree with you, Chain of Lightning. How do you go against a horse where you can't make a case against it? It's going to be the heavy favorite. I mean, at some point, it's probably going to lose. I don't know that day is today. I have Isotope as my second horse in here, not my first one. Splitting hairs between that and Zepetillo, which is the 2 horse. Which is my next choice. But this one's making its second start up off a layoff. Second up, the horse stopped 4 times, 2 wins, and a second in there. I think the only thing is on the wet surface 6 times, as long as it stays soft, the horse has gone 4 times and won 3 of them on Isotope. If the track gets downgraded to heavy, 2 times it has in place. So I think maybe if it gets any wetter, I'd probably downgrade Isotope, which is my second choice. And then the third choice is, as you had the second choice, is Zapatillo. I think that's probably how you pronounce that horse's name. Zapatillo is making his third start off the layoff, third up, 2 times out, as I mentioned, a win and a second. I think that's one of those horses, as you know, just looking at the pattern there, one of those horses that whatever reason that second time off a layoff is not as interested as at the first time. Probably just a little bit tired, leg weary, and then comes back to form in the third race. Or I guess the way you would call it over here is catching your second wind, right? And then finally, my one price horse.
Well, we should point out, too, that the horse has done very well on the wet going and also on the soft going. So yeah, that's one reason why I really couldn't leave it out.
Me as well. And then the final choice for me is another award, number 11, 20-1 right now. You got to have a little bit of price in there when you got one of these short shots in here. This guy is making his first start off of a break, done that 5 times, managed to win 2 of them with a second in there. It's been on a soft track 5 times with a win, a place, and a show. So the horse has done okay on the soft track, done well at the distance, 10 times out, hitting the board in 7 of those, 4 wins, 2 seconds, and a third. So if he hits the board on an off track, first off the layoff, it's likely to be a first or second place finish. And if I can get a first or second place finish on a 20-1 horse, Thomas, I am going to be one smiling, sleeping.
Yeah, I passed on that horse primarily because of the change in the bit that they're going to use. It's a first time a control bit they're going to put in. So it's a very different type of bit than normal and what I read was it's not normally used for racehorses.
What do they usually use it for? Like an ox to plow the field or something?
I guess draft horses or something. It's more of a or riding, and they also use it for like show.
So maybe he's gonna do like jumps and twirls and stuff
on
the way to the finish line.
I don't know. I mean, it was just it was very. That was one reason why I left it. I couldn't play it because I read that first time with that and I had to look it up. It's like with the thumps. I had to look that up too because I had no idea what it was.
Nor did I. So I just put it the thigh mumps. All right.
Well, but I like that when we get information about vet information because in the States you see on one of them you get one of them they tell you what the horse is scratched because of a vet, but they don't tell you why unless you go do a little more digging. And especially when you got people like Brad Cox or Mike Maker, you want a little more detail. Is it something to be concerned about, or is it something that is just a one-off and the horse is fine?
Yeah, I hopefully one of the things at HISA will be more transparency, though the horsemen are complaining that HISA is not that transparent, but sometimes government practices do as I say, not as I do. So hopefully one of the things they say is for horse racing to become a little bit more transparent with the horse's medical history on this side of the pond. All right, Tom, that wraps it up for today for our Foreign Fridays. Any inclination? Are we going to stay down under next week, or are we coming back up to Europe? What's on your mind?
I hate to be honest with you, I didn't look yet, but I'm kind of thinking Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. All right. Yeah.
We haven't been there in a while, and the racing is just getting started, and we could pick out some handicap races and some those middle class type races, and get our feet wet again with some early morning Châtain Sunday morning racing, which would be fun to do.
Indeed.
So, and if not that, well, there's a couple in Japan that looked interesting, and then we always have Europe. And then the week after I'll be out on vacation, so I won't be able to do it, but there are some good races then too.
Fantastic. Well, I hope you have fun on your vacation, but we're also counting down the days to the Breeders' Cup. Of course, we're going to have our international preview of the international horses like we did last year, except this year it's going to be encompassing the entire planet, not just Europe. We won't be so Eurocentric in terms of horses in any way. That
was a big, well, no, we did mention Love Only. We did mention the one, but we ignored the one that won the distaff when Latruska got cooked. And and she paid a few bucks. So
we won't make that mistake this year. And then also, it seems to me too, last year it was Japan. Maybe this year it's going to be Germany, because it seems like some of the German horses are starting to be on the improve. Maybe they've imported some of the good hay from California.
Well, or some of that good hay from the UK, because some of the background on some of those. But I look at those, and from what I've read, is more stamina horses. So the longer races than the shorter stuff. But it will be interesting because unfortunately, I have only found like one source, and that's FanDuel, and now of course that's expanded that you can actually bet on the German racing. The other ones, it's not available. So I've kind of shied away from it just because of that. I like to pick races that we can bet.
And actually watch when we bet on, instead of just kind of
then rather than speculating on, not that I would have been able to pick the ARC winner last year, which was a German bred. But since we haven't been able to bet on them, I've kind of shied away from it. And the one area that we haven't covered, but does not produce much in the way of winners, is from going other places to Sweden. We can bet on those races. Of course, mainly it's harness, but there is flat racing available too.
Well, we'll certainly look into that as the year goes on and into next year, and as the map expands for us tomorrow. I think already Eddie C and Chris P put up their. I really paused for a moment there. Those two put up their spot place for Woodbine. So we got really complete coverage on the big weekend of racing at Woodbine up in Toronto, Canada. Make sure you check that out. Again, last night we had on Robert Geller, the track announcer for Woodbine. Really a fun show. Some really good insights on some horses. He picked some horses that he thought were going to be tough to beat, and a couple of price horses in there too. So make sure you look at that. I mean, there's not going to be anybody who has more insight to Woodbine. 3 winning your in races for the Breeders' Cup. So looking forward to the Breeders' Cup. And then tomorrow is actually the first prep race for both the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks over at Churchill Downs. Of course, you can get those picks over at Guaranteed Tip Sheet. There's a link in the all over the place at horseracingtoday.net. So make sure you use those when you head on over there. Hard to believe we're already on.
Also, there's a race with Wisconsin and Bell's the One again. They're facing each other for the 8th time.
Hard to believe the Kentucky Derby Trail starting tomorrow, Thomas.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy,
unbelievable. And our good friend,
not a ton of points available, but
yeah, I mean, I don't think a horse that's ever won the Iroquois, I think, is even qualified for the Kentucky Derby. But still, fun to know that trip has begun. And we have some good friends tomorrow, too, over at, I think it's Churchill Downs, or maybe it's at Belmont. I'm not sure, but
the Belmont at Aqueduct.
The BOA. What the horse's name is Isolate for Dean and Patty Reeves from Reeves Racing is running tomorrow, too. 7-5 morning line favorite. If there's 2 nicer people in horse racing, I'd really like to know who they are, because you should just canonize them already. But in any case, Tom, that wraps it up for today. Terry and I will be back at noon Eastern on Monday to talk about the entire Parks card. Tuesday, we're probably going to do Horseshoe Indianapolis, and then it's up in the air from there, whether Churchill or the Big A at Belmont or the L Belmont at the Big A, whatever it is, whatever they've renamed the Aqueduct track
thing they did. I don't understand that.
No, just say Aqueduct, because that's where they're running.
It's a big deal. It's Aqueduct.
Yeah.
Aqueduct's not a bad track. I mean, it's a little more industrial, but on the other hand, it's got 2 nice turf courses and that, the 1-turn mile, you can't beat that.
Well, every family has that one child, Tom. I guess in the Naira family, that one child is Aqueduct. So,
yeah, well.
All right. Well, until we get together again on Monday, of course, we'll have Horse Center Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll have some great lineup of guests lined up by Sean. Again, please, we're 8 people short, just 8. So be number 8. Help us get to 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram below at Horse Race Today. Our Swiss Army Sean will keep you up to speed and let you know if we're going to do Hong Kong next Friday. We're going to do Australia next Friday. We're going to do whatever else next Friday on Foreign Friday. Whatever it is, folks, until we meet again, we hope that everything you do this day ends up in the
winner's circle.
Indeed. Enthusiasm from Tom. Go Yankees.